Hi, welcome to video 9 in the GatsbyJS series, where we're going to start using images inside our project. You might say, but what's the point in this video? We've done images thousands of times before on the web, it can't be that hard. Well, that's true. We have done them many times before and it is relatively simple, but it's not easy to do it correctly. When the large hero image on the right is downloaded, it's around 4 megabytes. That might not sound like a lot, but that quickly adds up when you look at other images on our site, like this Gatsby and View image down here. And the average internet speed, at least in the UK, is actually pretty shoddy. This means when we load our homepage, we get a slowly loading image. There's nothing worse than seeing a website with a void where the image is supposed to be that jumps when the image eventually loads in. You also get ranked down in Google because of this. They don't like websites with huge non-optimized file sizes and formats. So that means we have to start optimizing the image sizes ourselves, reducing the sizes, the widths, heights, compressing them, etc, etc. It's just an uphill battle. That's where Gatsby steps in. In this video, we're going to install a couple of plugins. These plugins are nothing short of magic. What they will do is pick up our images, automatically resize them all, compress them all, generate thumbnails, and just optimize the living daylights out of them. And then we can just use Gatsby to surface the images into our website. So let's crack on. If we switch to VS Code, first thing we need to do is get the packages. So the first thing we're going to install is Gatsby Image. This one is not actually a Gatsby plugin. This is just a React component we'll be using to render out the actual image instead of the standard image tag. Now that's done, if I just clear that. Now we need to install our two plugins, Transformer-sharp and plugin-sharp. You can copy all these installs from the description as usual. So, Gatsby plugin-sharp exposes several image processing functions built into the Sharp processing library, and gatsby-transformer-sharp can create image sharp nodes in GraphQL. gatsby-source-filesystem lets us source data from our file system to actually grab the images from our folders and process them. It all sounds a bit complex, but let's crack on and it will start to fall in place. I'm currently tethering to a mobile phone as the internet's down in my area, so my downloads will be much slower than yours, so I'm just going to fast forward these sections. Now they have installed, if we switch over to our Gatsby config, we can register the plugins. First, we need to source the files. So just after this object, we're going to create another object and we're going to resolve Gatsby source file system. And then we're going to pass some options into this. Inside here, we're going to give it a name. This can be anything, so I'm just going to call it images. And then we need to point it to a directory so it knows where to source our images from. Just write directory, and then inside here you can write ___ directory name. Is it a triple or is it a double? I always forget it's a double. And then we'll write assets / images. This is going to be where we store all of our images. So we are saying resolve the Gatsby source file system. This is just called images, and then from this directory assets images, that's where all our images will live. So whilst we're here, let's create that directory. Assets. Can't type today. Assets, and inside there, we want an images folder. Perfect, so that matches our Gatsby config. Now that we can source our files, we need to add our image plugins in. For these, we can take the default options. So let's just put them after our file system. And it's important they're after our file system because we can't transform the images before we're able to source them. So Gatsby plugin image sharp, and then we want another one, and we want Gatsby transformer sharp. Give that a save. Now that's done, let's clear our console and start it up to check that nothing breaks. Looks like there was an error, and the error is Gatsby plugin image sharp. What could that be? So let's have a look in our package JSON. Gatsby plugin sharp. Right. It's not Gatsby plugin image sharp, it's Gatsby plugin sharp. So let's go back here and remove the image tag from there. Now in here, clear the console, and we will try that again. So run npm start, and we've got another error. What's this one? Gatsby source file system does not exist on your file system. Undefined. There's the error. We named it directory. So let's change that to path. And hopefully this time, get rid of that, we know it's right. Hopefully this time, we have got it working. Now that's complete, let's navigate to Chrome. Just closing tabs from earlier. Go to localhost 8000, check that nothing is broken. And we're looking really nice. Everything is here. Let's just zoom that in for you. We have our hello world. There's no errors excluding the 404 page not existing because we haven't built that yet. So now we need our images. So the links for the images will be in the description. I'm just going to get mine from my file system. Drag all of them into our assets images. Now in theory, if everybody's working correctly, our source plugin should have just picked everything up. As you can see here, Gatsby has picked up that we've added files, and it's built some schema, and it's added some nodes. So that means it's been picked up by the plugins, and they've worked their magic on it. So let's start using them in our project. If I just close these tabs, we're using the images on our home page at the moment. So if I navigate to our home page, which is our index.js file, we can start writing our GraphQL query. As I said before, the plugins pick this up and they create nodes inside Gatsby. So that's the nodes inside GraphQL. And we're going to add this into our home page. So we already have a page level query at the bottom to get our site metadata. So we can also extend that to start grabbing our images. As we write this query, I'm going to write a comment above it explaining how we access the image in our component. So as you already know from this one, query is not passed in. It's passed in as data. So it'd be data.site.site-metadata.social.facebook, like in the old example above. To add another query, we simply need to create a new line inside our initial query. So first of all, in our comment above, let's write data, because that would be the first thing passed into our component. So this here is all the data. So let's start writing our query. So we're going to get the hero image, and that is a file with a relative path, and the relative path is equal to hero.png. And we don't need to specify anything like going back directories and all of that, because inside our Gatsby config, we pointed it directly to the images folder. So when we're trying to access a file, it knows we're looking in that folder. So then if we do that, we can start writing more queries inside here. So now it would look like this, data.heroImage. Next, we need to write our child image sharp. And since we've installed the plugins, we have access to this. So child image sharp. And this is a node that was piped in by our plugins. It transforms the images, and then we get the image by file and access the sharp library image. So now, if we copy that to access it, we do data.heroImage.childImageSharp. This is getting quite big. The next thing we need to do is get the actual modified image and specify a couple of things. When transforming the image sharp library needs to know the max width it will be, and if it will be a fixed or fluid size. By fixed, we mean the image will always be, say, 600 by 600 pixels and will never change its actual size. And by fluid, we mean the image might be 320 pixels wide on mobile and then scale up to 600 pixels wide on desktop. The reason we have to specify this is because that is how the Sharp library knows how to transform the image and what quality it needs to be transformed to when it does so. So to do this, we need to say if the image is going to be fixed or fluid. So I'm going to go for fluid. I usually go for fluid because I use the image on mobile and desktop most times, so it usually adapts its size. Then inside these parentheses, we need to add the max width it will be. And this is just so it knows how much it can break the image down, because we don't want to start losing quality on our larger screens. So as this is a half screen image, I'm going to set this to 1200 pixels. And that, I think it's just 1200 actually, we don't need to specify pixels. And the reason I'm doing that so large is because obviously we're going to have people on larger monitors such as a 4K monitor, so we don't want to degrade the quality for them too much. Then inside here, we need to open the last set of brackets. Before we write the next bit, we need to add .fluid on there. Then inside here, we're going to use a new bit of syntax. We're going to write ... Gatsby Image sharp fluid underscore no base 64. And that is a really confusing looking sentence, but essentially we're destructuring more values inside of here. So this line would write out loads of things. So it would write out base 64 and then a string for our base 64 image. It will write out our source for our normal image tags, and it will just fill this out with information. But as that information is always the same, the Gatsby Image Sharp library gives us this what we call fragment in GraphQL we can access, just to save us writing more nesting. And that's that. So if I give that a save and a refresh, we have an error. So unexpected single quote character. Did you mean to use a double quote? So yep, GraphQL cannot use single quotation marks, so we have to use them. Give it another save. Rebuilding development bundle. So if we go back to the top of our file, we've got that data coming in here. Let's just console log that so we can see if it's been added to it. Navigate back to Chrome. Let's clear that out and give it a refresh. Here's our data. And just like in the comment we've placed here, we should see data.heroImage.childImageSharp.fluid. And everything in here is what the Gatsby Image Sharp fluid fragment we used is in bringing in. So it brings in the aspect ratio, sizes, source, and source set. And these are all things that the Gatsby image component we imported requires to display an image. So now we have that, let's go back to our component and we'll destructure that in. Let's just remove our comment first at the bottom as we don't need it anymore. That was just to explain it. Go back to the top of the component. So we're destructuring social there. We'll also destructure our hero image and we'll destructure that off the data. Just delete that. So we've done all this work and we still don't have an image displayed on our page. Well, the contents of fluid, so that's this here, are exactly what the Gatsby image package we imported needs to display it. It uses each of the fields and dynamically decides when to show them. It's a very smart component. So let's import that at the top. If we go to the top of the file, import image from Gatsby image. The default export is not actually named image. I just like to call it that because it makes most logical sense to me. And now in our page, just underneath the hello world, we'll write image. Similarly to how we need to state whether the image is fixed or fluid in our GraphQL query here, we also need to do that with this component because it needs to know what type of data it is receiving. So in here, we pass it the prop fluid. If you're doing a fixed image, you'd simply just pass fixed. But we are using a fluid image, so let's write fluid there. Inside here, we need to pass it the fluid contents of our image. So to do that, we need to get our hero image dot child image sharp dot fluid. And that's all this component needs to work. If we switch back to Chrome, we should see our image. If we inspect it, we can see it's not just a normal image tag. It's automatically generated a picture tag and a couple of things in here such as source and image. We added the no base 64 flag onto this. You also have access to different fragments. So in our code editor, we chose, if I scroll to the bottom, Gatsby image sharp fluid no base 64. And this returns our images that are not blurred. There is multiple options in the Gatsby image library if we look here. If you scroll down to the bottom of here, you can see a large list of the fragments that it supplies. So we've got traced SVG. That one's extremely smart. So if we copy that one, I'll show you what that one does. and it's not fixed, we want fluid. So if I save that one, go back to our website and refresh, you'll see it actually has a brief flash of an SVG where it's traced what the image looks like. So you'll see around my hair and beard, there's a black faint line. It's extremely impressive, the power of this. But we don't want that, we just want ours to fade in nicely. So fluid with no base 64, instead of tracing it, it just fades the image in when it is ready to be displayed. And that is the power of the Gatsby image library. Rather than showing your image at a low quality, rather than just loading your image slowly and then jumping in, it does a much nicer fade, and it knows the size of your image, so you won't have your content down here. So if you can see our Facebook icons and our hello world, if this image wasn't ready, I'm just going to delete our whole image section out, it would be right up at the top, and then our image would load in and it would flash down to the bottom, and obviously we don't want that. Gatsby Image knows the height of the component, so it will leave everything around it and then just fade the image in when it is ready. We're going to use many more images in this course, so don't worry if this hasn't stuck yet, because this is where GraphQL starts to get a bit confusing. The key to learning this is repetition. Now we have imported and used our first image in Gatsby, we are ready to move on to the next video. In the next video, we will import the other images into the home page and we'll style it all up. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the course, please like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.